Today on the Human Algorithm podcast, I'm sitting down with someone who's redefining what it means to live and dress with freedom. Leonard Cheong is the founder and creative director of Finix, Singapore's first gender fluid, athlete flow lifestyle brand, a label that blends movement, mindfulness, and design into something far deeper than fashion. So he's a former dancer and yoga instructor, and Leonard's life has always been about flow between cultures, identities, between the masculine and the feminine. Through Finix, he's building a space where style isn't about fitting in, but about feeling at home in your own skin. Finix recently opened its first new multi-label flagship store at Keong Saik Road near Chinatown, which I have the pleasure of going for the opening party, where there was drag queens of Pratang and a lot of food as well. So Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Sean. Wow, what an amazing introduction.
No problem.
I don't know how you managed to dig all that up. Maybe it's online.
I think I've known you for quite a while now. We started talking a few years ago, and then I was part of your Pride shoot as well last year.
Yes,
with Oprah.
I love
and we had a podcast as well that we did like a tea kind of thing where we did sweets and coffee or tea.
We had like, everything pink, right?
Yeah.
And I was like so amazed because like now you have this amazing studio and like
shout out to Poster for this amazing studio.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, there are studios like that because last year, remember, I had to like put everything together, right? It was all done within a photography studio.
Yes.
So imagine it was so like,
I remember we did the photo shoot first, then we had to tear everything down, then build the set again. It took quite a while.
Wow, if I knew I did this, I would just like do
we should done here. So let's start with something simple.
Yes.
What's something people don't know about you beyond your status as a founder, as a designer?
Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Leonard, and
what's your pronouns?
My pronouns, actually, I'm very flexible with that. And I think it's also a journey of discovery for me. I usually go by he, him, but I'm also open to like people using they, them with me as well, because I feel like my gender identity is very fluid that way. And I'm also on the journey of discovery of what that means to me as well, as a gender non-conforming queer individual. So a bit of my brand, I started, my brand is called Finix, and it's a gender fluid F-Flow, ATHFLOW, lifestyle fashion label. And basically it's more lifestyle kind of wear where it moves from like a workout to a hangout every day to your next holiday. That's what I say in simple. Yeah, I feel like my life is almost already online already, but I think lesser known things about me is that, I used to be a dancer, which I think you mentioned already, right?
I didn't know that as well.
You didn't know that as well. Yeah, I used to be a dancer and for a couple of years lah. And I think that was also the start of the idea of flow and fluidity and everything. And then another aspect is that, I used to live in Japan for a couple of years, and I went through one of the world's most devastating earthquake or natural disasters, which was the March 2011
tsunami.
Great Eastern Japan earthquake, which caused the whole nuclear meltdown, which coincidentally, I lived in the city where it melted down. Fukushima.
Oh, wow.
In Iwaki City, which is just like 40 kilometers away from the plant.
Yeah.
And that was also something to remember that really traumatized me quite a bit. But it also really built me to who I am today as well, my identity and everything. And what else? Oh, and I'm also a very spiritual person. I don't know whether I mentioned that before, but like, I'm kind of in a woo kind of space. But I think it's big also when I started this business as well, my kind of I guess you call it a spiritual awakening kind of started to happen. I started to see a lot of visions and it started to really follow that as well.
Okay.
So that's another aspect of me that not many people know about.
So you see visions. Do you know what's the next 4D number today?
No, I don't have that kind of visionary kind of foresight. For me, it's more of I don't know. I just feel like I have a pulse on, like, for me, it's more in fashion. I think
Yeah.
So a pulse on what trends, on things that I feel that would sort of become a thing, and it's not like overnight thing, like next month it will happen, I'm not that specific, but it's almost like I can feel a vibration.
Okay.
Like I feel like so 1 year I remember there was a feeling that I had that bucket hats will come into the foyer and it will become a thing, and eventually in about like less than a year it emerged, and a lot of people started wearing it, and I don't know, it's just something that I had with me, and as I decided to go into fashion as well, because it was something that I remember growing up always feeling very attuned to. I didn't know where it came from, and I was always feeling that like I would sort of, if I had when I had the freedom to really dress up how I want, I would be able to embody that. But I would just, if I went to dress up like that, obviously to a lot of my parents' dismay, but soon enough, like months after that, you will see some people start to wear it and everything, And
so you're the trendsetter lah.
I don't know whether it's a trend setter. I think I kind of set my own kind of trends.
Okay.
Like what I feel that would work.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's talk about your brand, right? And the origins of it. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And you previously described that Finix was born out of frustration because you went to shop and in the menswear aisle, you found nothing felt like you, nothing that you really resonated with. So take me back to that moment, what emotion do you feel that actually gave birth to the brand, whether it's anger, exhaustion, or is it something else?
Oh my gosh. I think that it's actually a whole story in itself. I don't think it just was when I started my business or my brand. I think from young, I always kind of just dressed differently.
Yeah.
And it wasn't very conventional, but living in a very conservative country like Singapore, where fashion isn't also right at the forefront, it's very hard to find interesting styles, and especially when it comes to menswear, it was always very limited. It's always, you're left with the kind of very predictable silhouettes, like, oversized t-shirt, right? Now we know Uniqlo's the
uniform, Singapore men's
right?
uniform.
Yeah, Uniqlo. And then it's always the typical Bermuda shorts, the buzz cut, very typical Singapore boy kind of like look. And yeah, the department stores, the shopping centers all reflected that. The stores reflected that. And not that I still couldn't find my stuff. I mean, I would sometimes find treasures, like, when I shop, but they were very rare, and like, it's like maybe one out of many stores or shops I've been to. So fast forward, to the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, I think, I started having this lifestyle where it was like trying to find wellness in it, and more mindful wellness. And I started doing more yoga. And at the same time as well, after yoga, I would go out and like hang out with my friends or go for a meal with my friends, or maybe just run errands, and then like on weekends, like sometimes with the long weekend, at time I was still working full time. I remember my friends and I used to always go to like travel in the region, to just somewhere like a resort or something like that. And, I noticed this kind of lifestyle I had, and I was like, whenever when I went to the gym, or whether I went to yoga, or whether like it was also transitioning from the studio to, to hanging out with friends, or even into the weekend, the long weekend when I was going to travel, there was nothing I could really find that I could transition smoothly across. And I mean, you could say like, oh, just t-shirt and shorts lah, but that was not really my style, and I kept looking around, and it was just really frustrating because every store I went to in Singapore at least seemed to reflect that. It was always the same silhouettes. And so that got me a bit frustrated, and I decided, and there were some things that I really wanted for myself. And I think at the same time as well, just to also mention is that like I also started, I also was kind of shopping, in like those typical like Shopees and Taobaos and everything, right? Many people do that. But every time when I buy things from those places, even though it was cheap, the quality was so bad. I would wear it once, twice, 3 times is a push already. And it was just like, no, it's just not working for me. And I found it such a waste because like after that, what I do with that piece of clothing, give it away, donate it away, or maybe even throw it away, or because it was so low quality that it would tear or it would spoil. So I just felt like, what a waste, man. Like why can't I be a brand or design that really could last, was like evergreen at the same time as well, had quality, and also reflected my style. And so that's when I decided to take things into my hands and really start my brand, So it came from that space of like, being frustrated, as you said, not being able to find what I wanted in the menswear department, and then also being very much inspired by women's wear as well, because they had so many silhouettes, there's so many styles, and women were having so much fun with dressing up. And so when I started my label, it was kind of trying to marry those two worlds together to be able to create a line where we could bring back that kind of whimsical fun into dressing up, that there were silhouettes that we could create that could still transcend, beyond like gender, beyond, like what men's supposed to wear, women's supposed to wear, And that's why when I started my brand, when I started really delving into my creative kind of essence, that like this part of me sort of emerged, or rather I would say re-emerged, because it always had been in me. It was just kind of suppressed or buried inside. Yeah. And that's how I kind of overcame that. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally identify with that because I also suppress a lot of my queerness, right?
Yeah.
And my, that gender fluidity side of me that I always had, but I always suppress it. And once I started to...
Can I just say that I really seen your evolution from last year and how you came out and everything. And just been such an... I'm just feeling so much joy whenever I see you.
It's exactly like what you say, because once I start embracing that, it's become more of a natural state, natural flow, where I now wear whatever I want and I feel happy with it. I wear your clothes and I'm happy with it as well, right? So it's always that kind of ability to identify what is you are blocking and pushing down. I want to talk about the name. The name Finix merges infinite and Finix, right? So how did that word came about for you, and what does it mean personally for you?
Oh, this is not a story in itself. Everything's a story of my life.
Storytelling.
Yeah. So I initially wanted to, before I started my business, I had this plan to call my brand. I had this idea, I'm going to call my brand the word infinite, without the E at the back. Actually, it was infinite with a little dot at the end, and it was kind of like part of sort of my journey at that point of time during my spiritual awakening, where I saw the abundance of like the universe, that what it can give me and what it was trying to push me towards. And so I had this idea, I'll call it infinite. And then but like, in 2019, I remember I went on this fashion sort of continued education training course, the CETs, you call it. But I went for that, and I sort of did a whole advanced diploma in learning about the fashion industry, learning about fashion. And I think one of the courses there, I was tasked to kind of come up with a brand name. And I don't know why, but I didn't want to review that word at first. So I was kind of like, must keep it mum. No one should know about my secret plan. And then I don't know why, but somehow or other, in that very moment when I was supposed to come up with a name with my group mates, I just said, what about Finix? And then they were like, sure, this is a name, right? But for me, it was like, where did that come from? And I think it was always kind of like sitting inside of me, the symbolism or the idea of the Finix. And slowly that kind of like sort of played out, and I eventually decided to call my brand Finix. It was actually a marrying of the words infinite and fickle, fiery bird, Finix. And because of Finix itself, also why I embodied it inside my brand was because of what it symbolized. I think it kind of represented part of my life as well. I think you mentioned before, something about like dying and rising from the ashes. and a rebirth. And I think that was also something I saw within my business, that rebirth, the re-emergence of my identity, that was always sitting inside of me. I think also the Finix also represented this idea of the masculine and the feminine, which I found very intriguing as well, that it could embody both sides, with so much strength, the masculine, the fire, the rage, and then also the feminine being its kind of this fluidity